Some Hillary Clinton advisors are appearing to find a new scapegoat for her election loss after first blaming FBI Director James Comey and then Russia. Now Vanity Fair reports some in Hillary land are pointing fingers at Clinton's inner circle, particularly her closest aide, henchwoman Huma Abedin. That's my nickname. A Clinton advisor saying about Huma, quote, "She was enjoying the red carpet and enjoying the photo spreads much too much, in my opinion. She enjoyed being a celebrity too much," and that the tight-knit group was dismissive of new ideas, saying, quote, "The real anger is toward Hillary's inner circle. They reinforced all the bad habits," but a Clinton campaign spokesperson denying that. Suggestions had fallen on deaf ears. Kat, I'm going to go to you first. So I have talked about Huma Abedin and how I thought she was really a bad influence on Hillary Clinton and bad for her. She went to the Met Ball. She loved red carpet. She's a celebrity in and of herself. On campaign land, that's a really bad thing to do. What do you make of the blame being put on her?
I think she has some blame. Hillary surrounded herself with yes people that weren't going to tell her no, which is always going to be a problem because sometimes all of us need to be told no. But it's still her fault for surrounding herself with those people. It's her fault for not being the kind of person who could accept criticism or could surround herself with people who might be able to help her. Again, though, we see people blaming everybody but themselves, which is, of course, a comfortable thing to do, and it might make you feel better, but you do need to look at yourself to avoid making the same mistakes in the next election or, relationship. All, again, same thing.
I would say, go ahead.
I look back on the anniversary of 9/11, and we saw Hillary Clinton standing on the curb before she passed out, and they whisked her away to her daughter's apartment. We didn't know what had happened. 90 minutes later, where has this presidential candidate gone? Is she okay? What has happened with her? We later learned out she had pneumonia. I mean, like more than a week later. My point of all of that is at the time, Clinton insiders were telling me that normally Huma Abedin would have been there to handle all of that. She wouldn't have been standing on the curb by herself waiting for the ride to show up. So that there were probably some unbreakables in that deal, like deal breakers. Huma comes along with Hillary no matter what, and you see the gaps that can happen when she's not there. So these people in the inner circle and others can complain all they want, but she played a role.
I don't know, Harris. Absolutely she played a role. But personally, I'm just so sick of everybody but Hillary being thrown under the bus for Hillary's demise. And ultimately, it is on her because she's selected. Huma is not new, right? She's been around for many, many, many years around the Clinton inner circle, and Hillary had at her disposal the who's who of Democratic Party elites. She could have put anyone in that role. She picked Huma. So she knew what the tendencies were, that she was going to love celebrity and love the red carpet and love that aspect of political life.
And be married to Anthony Weiner.
Somebody needed to be able to drive her to the hospital.
Yeah, and I think that if she wanted that person there, she should have had that person, but she didn't pick that person. I think it was for a reason. You got to take the good with the bad when it comes to
James
Huma.
Comey reinvestigated their emails because of her husband's server. So there is legitimate blame to be placed on this staffer.
Huma was absolutely terrible. And by the way, this is the only job Huma Abedin has had. Her only job, to my knowledge, that she's ever had was working for Hillary Clinton. So Hillary Clinton was able to mold this person to be her offensive line, if you will. But again, ultimately, the blame goes to Hillary Clinton, perhaps one of the worst candidates, certainly in my lifetime. But Huma does represent one thing, that Manhattan elitism that could never understand the iron worker in Ohio who's been out of work for 6 years. That sort of circle that could never connect the dots, that would think she wouldn't have to visit Wisconsin. I remember when Donald Trump landed his plane in Minnesota and he said to the crowd, "Hillary hasn't been out here." Something went through me. I said, what? It was like a couple days before the election. She hasn't even... I mean, to take this election for granted, that she could spend all of August in the Hamptons, the whole thing was all elitist. It blew up in their face. And I think Huma's a good poster child for it, but the better one is Hillary.
Yeah, and you know who's the opposite of that kind of elitism is Bill Clinton. He's such a kind of southern, down-home kind of candidate. As a candidate,
I think he's morphed a little bit. I think he knows how to play the role.
I think he knows how to campaign that way.
Well, he's a much better campaigner.
Right, and I heard from Clinton insiders, to Harris's point, that he was constantly ignored at every turn.
Yeah, he's such a good campaigner.
He certainly would have picked her up at the curb.
But he's such a good campaigner when he's talking about what a disaster Obamacare is. He's not that great of a campaigner. If we learn nothing, the Clintons of the 90s are not the Clintons of today's, and I wish they would just go away.
Most things have moved on since the 90s.
President-elect Donald Trump tweeting out that China can keep that drone it seized, but we're told it's going to be returned tomorrow. Whether the president-elect is handling that situation the best way. Plus, Mr. Trump pushing back on claims made by Michelle Obama during an interview with Oprah Winfrey. She said Americans are lacking a sense of hope after the election. First Lady's message and whether it's time for her to come to terms with the results of the election.